Let's return now to those various corruption scandals creating difficulties for the Spanish Prime Minister. Pedro Sanchez himself hasn't been directly named in any investigation. Well, to discuss all of this, we're joined now by Carlos Mascarell Vilar, political scientist, advocacy expert and a visiting lecturer at the University of Barcelona. Thanks so much for being with us on the programme. Carlos, let's start with the Prime Minister himself, Pedro Sanchez, insisting that he isn't going to be calling early elections. But how much pressure is he, his government as well, coming under with all these various corruption scandals that seem to be in one way or another engulfing the government and the Socialist Party?
Yeah, hello, thanks. Good night, everyone. Yeah, I mean it's been a while already with several corruption scandals surrounding the prime minister. So first it was his very close, several of his very close party leaders, also his brother, his wife. However, we need to understand that there is a big debate in Spain about lawfare cases in the past that started trying to push down the government, but at the end they ended up in a nothing really really no one was like there was no sentence like firm sentence. So here there is a big debate. Of course the pressure is there, and there are some things that might be considered as certainly to start a judiciary process against several of his party members and even an investigation against his party. However, we don't know until how far this is a reality, or there are some pressures from the opposition and also from the judiciary, especially the conservative sides of the judiciary system, trying to put pressure on the Spanish government to bring them down.
And as we said, Prime Minister himself not named in any of these investigations, but to what extent, Carlos, is he being personally and politically damaged by these various allegations? It seems to be a drip feed of one thing after another, nearly for the Prime Minister. We heard that his wife was in legal difficulties not so long ago, now his younger brother.
Yeah, well, I think, here the issue is that in terms of the public opinion, as long as you are put in front of the judiciary, regardless if it's you as a person or as a prime minister, but people around you, I think there is already a public opinion judgment regardless of the judiciary result. So there are certain doubts about the independence of the judiciary power in Spain sometimes, and we've seen that in the past. So I think the government is trying to protect itself now, saying, well, until there are no real proofs, and this goes a bit farther in the process, we will not make any step, and we will not surrender in front of the pressure, because there are serious doubts, and this is quite objectives and neutral, that some of the cases in the past were not really did not conclude in any judiciary sentence, firm sentence against its party members or against the coalition that is governing currently in Spain. But the pressure is increasingly extremely high, especially at the end of his second mandate.
And are these various investigations becoming politicised, as he himself claims?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think here one of the big debates is, and of course, I think the governing parties in Spain, especially center left and far left, are trying to assess the situation and not put themselves in front of public opinion, saying that they deny what is happening. However, as I said, and it needs to be very clear, there have been cases already in the past where there was a lot of pressure. There were some of his very close party leaders and members of government that were accused of very bad things during their mandates, but at the end did not came into a conclusion. So we need to see in the upcoming days what are the real conclusions of the accusations to the party and also to some of former prime minister of the Socialist Party, and see whether there is real consistency in these accusations, or whether this is a whole campaign of certain conservative sectors from the judicial system and the opposition parties in order to see if the pressure will keep increasing.
And when elections do take place by next year at the latest, Carlos, how do you think the Socialists are likely to perform after all of this? Are we likely to see, a big boost in support for the anti-establishment parties, populist parties, the far right?
Yeah, this is very interesting because it's pretty much related to the current crisis. So probably in other situations, we would have seen already a motion of confidence to this government, even by some of the parties that are giving parliamentary support to Mr. Sanchez. However, there is no political appetite in those who govern together with the socialists for a motion of confidence to the prime minister, because a majority sees that the alternative of the conservatives together with the far right governing would be even worse. So I think there is a balance in between. We have the best among the worst of those who are currently giving support to the Socialist Party. And it's very unlikely that the numbers will change dramatically as long as the results of these judiciary investigations to the former Prime Minister, Mr. Zapatero, and also some of the former members of his party, which are currently being investigated, result in an effective sentence against them. The numbers are quite clear. They are not very likely to change the situation as we see it now. However, it's extremely tight between the current government and its coalition and the conservatives plus the extreme right.
There's a lot at stake. Carlos, thanks so much for being with us. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there for now. That is Carlos Mascarell Vilar, political scientist and advocacy expert. Thanks so much for your time.